Drugs rolling off the production line in India, one of the world's biggest suppliers of generic medicines. For over a decade, India has been the powerhouse behind low-cost drugs for the developing world, especially Africa and Asia. India's $4.5 billion pharmaceutical industry is now at a crossroads, following a new law introduced in January 2005. It's opened a highly charged debate, with opinion split right down the middle. Life has been to India to investigate. Bringing in the harvest in Pune, a poor remote rural area in southwest India. It's in villages like this, and in similar communities around the world, where the change in India's drug patent law is going to have the most impact.
Some
people don't have jobs. When you're ill, you have to decide what you're going to spend the money on. Do you eat? Do you spend it on education? Or do you spend it on medicines?
या गोळ्या आपण देतो लोकांना तर खाजगी दवाखान्यापेक्षा म्हणजे खाजगी गोळ्यांपेक्षा आपण कमी किमतीत देतो म्हणजे त्यापासून आपल्याला
These medicines are still expensive for poor people. These are not packaged medicines, they are loose tablets. The medicines are in different colors. Yellow for diarrhea, for fever or a cold, white tablets, so people can recognize the right tablet.
म्हणजे कलरवरून सुद्धा लोक आपले औषध ओळखू शकतात. कंपनीची गोळी ही लोकांना ओळखता येते.
Companies put labels and packaging on them, and that is why the pricing is higher.
येथे लावलेलं असतं त्याच्यामुळे त्याचे पैसे जास्त असतात. 2 रुपयाच्या 8 गोळ्या.
Poor families like these certainly benefited from India's historic 1970 drug patent law, which granted patents on the process rather than the product. This means drug companies in India could legally produce medicines that had been researched and introduced by international firms simply by a slight change in the process. They could sell them at half the price, but still make big profits. The head of one generic drug company says the new law will undermine the production of low-cost drugs and people will die as a result.
What did Indira Gandhi say in 1981 at the WHO? That there should be no patenting of life and death, and medicines should be free of patents. She said that in 81. Why isn't the government of India following her ideals today?
It's not just a question of Indian consumers, Indian patients being denied of new drugs. It's also a question of many poor African and Asian countries being denied drugs that were coming from India at much lower costs.
What do the international drug companies, whose business interests are going to be better protected under the new law, say to that? Will this change mean, as the new law comes into force, that the supply of affordable drugs to the world's poor is about to come to an end?
Certainly not. In fact, on the contrary, you will be mortgaging the future for the present. By destroying patents, you will discourage research. You will also ensure that for our children and our children's children, we do not have the drugs for the future diseases. And that will be the real killer.
Neither, according to Mr. Shahani, does this mean the end of the road for generic drug companies. 2/3 of Indians, he argues, still have no access to medicines, and that is a huge untapped domestic market.
If you look at the future for generic companies in India, there is potential both in the domestic market as well as the global market. If you take Indian opportunity, today only 35% of the population has access to medicine that we know. So there is a potential population of 65% which needs to be have access to medicine. So these generic companies, provided there are good delivery systems available, can access this. And this is over 700 million people. So there's a domestic demand-led opportunity here. It certainly is not going to spell the death knell for generic companies, including Cipla.
The government also defends the change in the drug patent law, not least because it will help improve India's own research and development into new drugs.
Now, with having a product patent regime, it gives the people of India access to the highest quality medicines in the world. It gives the Indian industry a comfort that their own research and development will be rewarded. And at the end of the day, we must build up, with 1 billion people, we need to build up our own industry.
The recent history of drug patents in India has had a significant impact on world health. The 1970 Act, with the patent emphasis being on process rather than product, revolutionized production. It mushroomed, and the competition between companies drove prices down.